Ja, hello and welcome to another episode of the Spielworxx Chat Season 3. My name is Uli Blennemann and I'm having a guest today, award-winning designer Matthias Cramer. Welcome, Matthias. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, this is good and I'm so happy having you as my guest today. And there's already Daniel in the chat. Hello, Daniel, the brute from Brooklyn. And there's Peter. Peter, good seeing you. And if you are having any questions or comments, please put them in the chat window and Matthias will respond. And hello, Stefan. Stefan Risthaus is there and Nimitas. Hello. And what a wonderful name, Kratzspitzdolch. Yeah, great name. My pleasure. And today we will talk about a new design of Matthias. It is Weimar, the fight for democracy. And here is the BGG URL, which I will post. And hello, Jay Foolsgard and Drösig and Demley. Good seeing you. So, Weimar, the fight for democracy. Matthias, why a game on the Weimar Republic, please?
Because I think it's a very important period, and I think, like many others, I was questioning for years why did it come that this country went from a democratic revolution into that Nazi regime just within 14 years. So what happened in that area, and why did it happen? So I investigated a little bit. At the beginning on my own interest, but then also because there are a lot of opinions why this happened. So some say, okay, this was because of all the treaties, Versailles and so on. Some say it's because of the inflation and the economic crisis, 1929, and So there's a lot of opinion that this was a kind of automatism that the Nazis will get to power in 1933, and I think that is not the case, and that there were a lot of possibilities how this republic could survive.
Yes.
And so this is why I did the game about that topic.
Yeah, and in my opinion, this is this is the most interesting period and most important period as well. So, yeah, I agree. And there is Nicholas. Great seeing you. And Daniel is proving that he is the brute from Brooklyn because he's saying, I was hoping we'd just be talking about the great Pimal Flaumen. So, no. Go back into your dark corner, Daniel. And there's Björn. Hello, good seeing you. And
but it's also a country-driven game, yeah.
So you see, there are the parallels. But speaking about parallels, there's another question. Matthias, did you also design the game with parallels to contemporary developments in mind?
I'm not the one who's saying that history is repeating, but of course there are parallels, and we are in a situation, I think, where we have actively to defend democracy. And if you look on the party spectrum that you have in the Weimar area, there's a lot of similarities to the spectrum that we are having today, I would say.
Yeah, and here I'm always agreeing with Matthias. I also think that history is not repeating, is not deterministic, but of course there are always, if you look back, there are things that happened and some things that may happen again, but it's not a one-on-one situation. You cannot say, because of 35, this will happen again. No, I don't think so. But Matthias, can you please tell us at the start some of the basics of your game? So number of players, playing time, and when will it be released?
So Weimar is a 4-player game. At the moment, we are working on the components for solo mode. So this is still an open topic, but we try to achieve that this is playing between 1 and 4 players. The game is quite long, so if the game is going to the end, so that means the Republic will survive. It might take 6-7 hours, and I'm very glad that I found Spielworxx and Skellig Games and Capstone Games who will release that game. So these 3 publishers are working very closely together, and we are currently heading for a release later this year.
Yeah. So of course this is approximate. You never know what will happen. Shipping situation and all this.
Yeah.
Final development, and we'll see. But as fast as possible. So late this year maybe may actually happen. And Björn Yellow Geek Bear is asking what are the core mechanics. We will get to this a little bit later, Björn, for sure, because and from my side also, I'm very glad that we have Clay of Capstone as a partner and Uwe of Skellig, of course. These are great companions, partners, and great companies for sure. But I'd like to ask you a question now that normally I'd rather ask at the end, but you all see why it is quite an important question right now. How can you win Weimar?
This depends on the factions. Actually, we have 4 factions in the game, and these are given factions. So it's the communists on the left side, and also the Nationalist Party, the DNVP, on the right side. And in between, we have the 2 democratic parties, which is the Social Democrats and the Zentrum. And so they have different winning conditions. So these factions are very asymmetrical. So if you're the communist, you can win by achieving Bolshevik revolution in the country. If you are the nationalist, you can try to install a military regime like they tried it in 1920 in the so-called Kapp-Putsch. Then also the Republic can fail because the problems of the young Republic get so overwhelming. So if, for example, the government cannot achieve to solve the hyperinflation or to sign the treaties with the Entente, of course, the Nazis can claim power, which is also a lose for the Republic. And the last option is that the Republic will survive, and then the faction with the most points is the winner.
And what I find fascinating in your design, Matthias, is as you mentioned earlier, it's basically a 4-player game, 4 players, 4 factions. But 2 of them, it's not a team game. It's not a team game, but 2 of the 2 factions, so 2 factions, they try to defend the young democracy, the young republic. So in a way, they have to play in some ways together, although they have separate interests. One are social democrats, the others are rather conservatives. And then you have also 2 factions that actively try to destroy the republic, but also from different ends, from the right and the left. And this makes for a fascinating game experience, in my opinion. So Matthias has done this really well. Please.
It's with switching friends. So you play left against the right on the one hand, but on the other hand, you play Democrats against totalitarianism. And this makes it so fascinating. So just for example, if you're a social democrat, there are things where you collaborate with the communists, but in a lot of areas you also collaborate with the conservatives.
Yeah, this and Dolzik is saying, great, already love it. So you are convinced easily. So I love that. No, thank you for your
Thank you.
comment. But we have to stay for a second with the Nazis. You mentioned them. And of course, the Weimar Republic was destroyed by several powers on the right, including the Nazis, which were, of course, very prominent. And you mentioned who the four factions are. Why no Nazi party? Why is no player playing the Nazis?
There are two reasons. First of all, I don't want to play the Nazis because of their political agenda, and I also don't want anyone to play the Nazis. This is one reason. So actually, the reason is because I'm a German designer. The other reason is simply that the Nazis are a small splinter party, mostly through the 20s, and were rising at the end of the 20s due to the economic crisis. So that would mean for the game that half of the game the Nazis have no relevance at all.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. You see, some people who may not know too much about this short period of German history. They think, well, the Nazis were immediately there and then they simply took power. No, for most of the time, as Matthias said, this was really a splinter party. But how is NSDAP, the Nazis, how are they then represented in the game?
They're represented by the game, so it's a kind of a fifth faction that is managed by the game, and of course this faction is hostile to all factions, even to the nationalists. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Nazis are in this game. They will appear late, but they are
Yes.
not a player power. So I think this
Yeah.
is important. Yeah. And Björn, if the Nazis win, everybody loses. Yeah. It's what it is. And Stefan is having a question. Any ideas for an intro learning game scenario of less than 6 hour playing time, Matthias?
We are currently working on shorter scenarios, so there will be an intro, which is the first 2 rounds. So this will be around 2 hours, and this actually covers the first year until the hyperinflation.
Yeah. So yeah, we try to make sure that there are shorter scenarios. Although,
Yeah.
but I'm a war gamer. I like these deep gaming experience that take longer to play. And there's Steffen. Hello, Steffen. And Steffen actually he has played. He's a playtester of Weimar. Good seeing you. And Daniel again proves why he is a brute from Brooklyn. He's saying, if I play the Watchdog card, will it protect me from Nazis? Yes. Uh, moving along. The game belongs, and now we get to your question, Björn, mechanics. The game belongs to the card-driven gaming genre. Why did you choose it, Matthias?
First of all, I love card-driven games, so I play a lot of Paths of Glory and this genre, and also the famous Twilight Struggle and these kind of games, and also. There are so many events in that area that are quite interesting. The game has 160 cards altogether. So that means 160 different events, and it was quite easy to find them because there was so much going on, and also so much interesting events, not only Ebert in swimming trunks, but a lot of other stuff that are very characteristic to that area, and that also cover a little bit the cultural life or the technical inventions in that period. So I think card-driven is able then to give some life into the game and to create a kind of the spirit of the 20s.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is a rich area, and this we need, in my opinion, such a game need some events. But also, of course, if you know card-driven games, card-driven or events in card-driven games can drive the story in a very good way without a lot of rules overhead, because you do not need these many exceptions. It's on the card, you follow the card
Mm.
text, and then you do it. Let me see here. Kratz Spitzdolch is asking, if I understand correctly, the game develops against a background of two good parties who defend democracy against two evil forces that want to destroy democracy. With such an approach, how does one protect oneself against horseshoe theory, right equals left interpretation? So that's a complex question, Matthias.
Horseshoe theory? What is that?
Yeah, it goes like a horseshoe, so that basically the right is like the left. More like as I interpret this as an issue where there aren't any differences between the right and left.
There are a lot of differences because, for example, so the right wing is very bound to the Reichswehr, so the official military of the country, and they can influence them, and of course they would never listen to the left. So there are a bunch of mechanisms that differentiated largely the right from the left. It's also covering, for example, so the first laws that are for the workers' movement that are coming out of the Social Democrats, and there are a lot of topics that differentiate this. There is no equality between left and right.
Yeah, I absolutely. And you have to see first, of course, this is a game. So, and hopefully a very playable game. We can't cover, of course, everything within this amount of rules pages. But yes, there is a huge difference between the KPD on the left and the DNVP on the right. And you have to also say, when you are saying good parties, the Zentrum, the conservatives, moved during the Weimar Republic more and more to the right, and it was definitely not a real strong bulwark against a takeover from the right at the end of this republic. And the Communist Party, the KPD, you can't compare the KPD of the 20s with the communists of the 70s, 80s, or 90s here in Western Germany. This is a party, the KPD, that is really looking towards Moscow. This is a Stalinist party, and we all know what happened there. But of course, the KPD and the DNVP are completely different players. And, no pun intended here for players.
Yeah. Towards the end of the 20s, the KPD was driven by Moscow, clearly also strategically. Yeah. And anyway, during the design process, it was much more difficult to differentiate the two democratic parties than finding enough differences between the right wing and the left wing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me look into these questions again. Demley42 is asking, I like the idea of the possibility of an alternative historic finish of the conflict. Which is the most different situation of finish we can imagine?
I think the most different is that Germany is becoming a Bolshevik republic, I would say.
Yeah,
because this would have changed the history a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. But of course, maybe, let's say the democratic parties would have kept the republic alive. Maybe just a couple of years longer, this would have probably changed Europe, the whole world, in a huge way as well. And of course, this is possible. This is possible. And more questions there. Matthias, is there a possibility for two-player variants?
If we get the bot system going, of course, yes.
Yeah. So, Drösig has said that he's a huge fan of the coin system, so he knows how this can happen. And he's also asking, I suspect, or they are asking, I suspect the game has not only async victory conditions, but also different actions for each party. We go to the actions, what you can do in a player turn right now, I suggest. So, Matthias, what are you doing when it's your turn?
So in a typical turn, you play a card, and you have three options. So you can either play that card for one of the events, then you can play the card for debate. Weimar has a system with issues, and you can debate that issues. So that means you're moving the issues towards your party. And this has a high relevance because in the end of the round, then the winner of the issue can decide what will happen with the issues. And these are important topics. So, for example, there is an issue named economy, and the winner can either decide to do something for the economy of the country or to do something for himself. So this would be more the populist approach. Or there is issue name Step in the Back legend. So this is the famous legend, and of course only the right winged are interested in that issue, and the other parties try to keep the damage low.
Yeah, and what you are seeing here, hopefully, are some cards. And please keep in mind, everything is draft work. So this is not, I repeat, this finished artwork, but you get an idea. So let me just give you a couple of examples here. You see here in the top left that this is a SPD, so Social Democrats card. Only the SPD player can, of course, play it. This is also a politician. And as Matthias said, you can use the action points here. So this is the large value. You have 4 action points, but you can also debate with this card. In this case, you are using both values, the large one and the small one. And on the bottom here of the cards, here are on the lower half, there are events. So you can play it also for an event, but only for one of these options. These are all politicians, Zentrum Party, KPD, DNVP, and they have various different possibilities.
I didn't talk about the actions so far, so we are not finished. So the third possibility is to take actions, and you're taking actions in one of the most important 11 cities in Germany at the time. And so there where you conduct, let's say, you may try to get the power of the street. So you can do demonstrations and for example, when you're the conservatives, because they do not demonstrate, they will do a beer tent. And also you can take other actions on the street up to trying to coup or counter coup in a city, or to mobilize your units. So because there were a lot of paramilitary units at that time, and all these kind of activities.
So you see, there is a lot going on in your turn, but what is important, a player plays a single card when it's his turn, and then he does one of these possibilities. So the downtime per card is pretty low. So a player turn is resolved pretty quickly. And the hand, if I'm not totally mistaken, is just 5 cards in a turn. It can be 6, but normally it's 5 cards, right? Yeah. And there are some comments. Hello, Dan. Good to see you. This is fellow designer Dan. And as some may have seen him here, he designed the wonderful game about North Korea. So, and he's saying it looks stunning already. What did Matthias find most challenging about modeling this subject?
Most challenging as I said, the difference between the Social Democrats and the Conservatives, this was a big part. And also try to keep the balance between the fight on the streets and the official government part. So by ruling the country, and you always have to balance at the beginning, at least, the Democrats against the anti-Democrats. So the Democrat score by solving problems for the countries. The anti-Democrats also then have to find scoring possibilities to catch up.
Yeah. It's as Dan is saying, it's a challenging topic for sure. And there's also Chris. Hello, Chris. Good seeing you. And yes, you are very late, so I will mark you down here on my list of bad guys. So Katschwitzdorf. You can hear that there is a lot of background research behind the design. Yeah, I have to compliment Matthias here. Do you plan to publish a designer diary that will explain the genesis of the game from the historical and theoretical background, maybe even with reading recommendations to approach the topic yourself away from the game? Good question, by the way.
Yeah, so we are planning to go this way. There will be also some reading documentation references, I would say, because there are some good books, but I researched also a lot on museums, so it's difficult to give that insight, and most of the books I read are in German, but generally we will check if there are translations into English, so that we can give some recommendations.
Yeah, and also you saw a couple of the cards in draft format. But of course, some cards have a certain background. So we will have in a second play booklet, we will have a couple of paragraphs for the card so that you know, this is why this is included and why is this an important event or what did happen here. So yes, we try to have some historical background for you if you are interested. Matthias, other aspects you'd like to mention about the game? What is important in your opinion as well?
Like I said in the beginning, so it was quite important to me also to have a little look on the cultural aspect and also what the time is bringing with itself. So there are a lot of details in that. So just for example, in the 20s, we had the first variety shows and so on. So there is a card for the communist, which is more in the direction great party and so on, and the nightlife in Berlin. And you will find the same card for the conservatives, and for them it's simply the decline of the West.
Yeah.
And these details, so different factions and different parts of the society having completely different angles on the same thing.
Yeah, and let me emphasize this and stress this. Matthias Weimar design is not a war game. You know, a lot of card-driven games up to now are war games. Although some designers, and Dan belongs to them, are using the wonderful card-driven mechanic for political games or other games. Weimar is a political game which also has some economic aspects, has some cultural aspects. And again, this is why CDGs are so wonderful, because you can have an event and from there you learn, although this is not a historical lesson game, learn a lot about this time. So this is why I think this is a great game. Björn, how progressive would Matthias say is his take on the card-driven wargaming genre? So progressive, how Yeah, Matthias.
At least it's
Innovative should be
it's
how
mhm,
innovative. Yeah.
innovative. The new thing is that it combines the mechanism of Churchill, so the issue drafting with the card game approach. Beside that, it's a classical take on card driven, although I have the two values and the different usage of the two values. So you get the small value only when you're debating and not for actions. And of course, then you have a dilemma if the small value, which is not the smaller number automatically, is significant. But for example, you want to take actions, but you have a card with a bigger number in the small value. So this lets you drive some fancy decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, and, I think debating is quite innovative among CDGs. So I like this. But of course, yes, you have seen some things, but not in this way in Churchill. And let me get back to the game board for a second. What we are seeing here is on this part is the what is opinion track. It is, and you see you can debate in this one. So there will be individual issues. Let's say, as Matthias said, the step in the back one, the Dolchstoß. And of course, this is an important issue for the right-wing party, the DNVP, and they try to pull it to their side. But the other parties can do the same thing too. And there's economy, there's a media, there's poverty, which was a big issue. There are the minor parties, which are also in the game. There's a foreign influence, there is security issues, and they can be moved over. And this is influenced for sure by Churchill, by the wonderful Mark. So more power to you, Mark, my buddy. Yeah, and but I think good
And there are
question.
even
Yeah.
there are even issues that are only in game for one turn, and and they are solved at the end of the round. So there are more issues in the game.
Yeah, quite a few. Quite a few contracts. So the treaties are included, which are important regarding foreign relations, but also regarding economy. So the government party or parties, they try to sign them or try to come to an agreement, but it's not always possible. And of course, it has influence on the politics inside the republic, because not all like this if another treaty has been signed. So all this is included. And thank you, Björn. This sounds very interesting. This two values in a debate thing. Yes, I think this is an innovative feature. So anything to add, Matthias?
No.
Yeah, no, I think this was a wonderful overview. So maybe just to repeat the basics, we hope to have the game out late this year. This is a partnership project by Capstone Games, Skellig Games, and Spielworxx. And it is for 1 to 4 players. Right now it is 4, but Matthias is a brilliant designer, so there will be ways for less people. And it's a game, of course, on the whole Weimar Republic from late 1918, early 1990 till early 33. So yeah, hopefully you like what you see when it's out, and we would love your support. And Matthias, if people would like to reach you to ask questions about this game, about all your other wonderful games, how can they best reach you?
They can reach me via Twitter or via Board Game Geek.
Okay, so BGG direct mails, direct messages, or on Twitter. So you'll find Matthias. There's another question. Gunnar Holmbeck is currently working on a game in the same time period. The approach is certainly different. I would like to know if there was an exchange. I doubt so, Matthias, right?
There was no exchange. I just got noticed by this game when, let's say, the basics of Weimar were ready. I just read something about this game. I was a little bit, I was not surprised because I think a lot of, there are some similarities, but other things are completely different. I saw a few cards and it was quite interesting because, of course, the cards took a lot of similar topics because these are the most important topics in that area. And I'm looking forward to that game and also what it will do differently. I heard there are other player factions than I have chosen, and I think it's very good for the topic to have two views and two coverages of that area.
Yeah, I agree. There should be room for two games all about the Weimar Republic in this wonderful hobby. And GMT, of course, is a great company. So I'm also looking forward to that game. And Björn is saying, I want an Anita Berber promo card. I don't even know what this means. Go into your dark corner, although Daniel is already there, so it's probably already full. But there is another good question here. Damley42. How have you handled terms of the time? To keep the sense of the time and staying neutral with terms must be really hard. How have you done this, Matthias?
Terms?
Terms, so names. Did you use special terms? I can already say there will be an English Capstone Games version and a German version. So, of course, most of the card names will be in English for in the English edition, where we are having German names on the German cards. But yes, we have to be sensitive here, very sensitive.
Yeah, we already have some, let's say, issues because the DNVP, so the National Party, of course, was a racist party, was an anti-Semitic party. So you cannot take over their terms simply and use it even if you explain them. I think it's a minefield, of course.
Yeah. We have to be all very careful and sensitive here because, again, this is not a history book for historians. This is a game, and this is a different thing here. So, yeah. But Matthias was very careful, and we hope that we are all very sensitive. So, good question here. And with this question, let's get to the end. So, because next week there is a Spielworxx chat, and it is my very special pleasure and honor to welcome Cole Worley. So, woohoo! So he'll be here next week. And first, thank you, Matthias, for your time, for your wonderful
Thank you for having me.
Really my pleasure. And thank you to all viewers, to all listeners here. And if you would like to see a special topic discussed in a future Spielworxx chat or have a specific question that you like to ask in advance, please drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. And so till then, bleibt alle gesund. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.